You're listening to Art Heroes Podcast, the show to help you thrive as a digital artist. Tune in to learn how to transform your passion into a career. Get inspired by other kick-ass 2D and 3D artists, and find out what it takes to be an art hero.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. This is Maria JD. I'm your host, and if you're listening to this episode on the week of 20th of January, we're still running a likeness week at Art Heroes, and you can access a bunch of great free workshops. And to do that, just head over to the show notes or just check out the video description or just go to www.artheroes.co to get access to free likeness workshops and push your likeness skills to the next level. And now I'm happy to introduce our guest for this week. He's got a really amazing story because he's a basketball player who returned to art and made an amazing career with that. So guys, please meet Leon Gittens, and in our conversation we're gonna talk about ultimate side hustles for a digital artist and literally go through a very extensive list. I had no idea you could do all of this. So thanks so much, Leon, for sharing, and I hope you guys enjoy. All right, Leon, we're now live. Thanks so much for coming on the show. Really humbled to have you on Art Heroes podcast. Thanks so much for coming.
I appreciate the invite. I'm very excited to, getting to meet you, chat with you, and just talk crap.
Sure. Let's get into it. Well, Leon, actually, the way I would normally start is the intros. So,
Mhm.
do you mind just, sharing your story with your own words a little bit?
Yeah, so my name is Leon Gittens. I am a character animator by day. I've been in the industry about 20 plus years now, but I'm from the UK, and I actually started off as a basketball player. Like that was what I did. That's how I came to the States. So I played basketball in England. I played, semi-pro, played for England, and then ended up coming to America to play college basketball. And as you do, I went straight into art. I kind of got tired of basketball, and when it became more of a job when I came to the States that it was fun. But I was always into art anyway, and so even when I was playing basketball, I was taking art classes on the side. And back then, most schools or college schools that had any basketball program did not have a art program. Like those two things didn't mix. Athlete and artist were not a thing.
Yeah.
You just did kind of thing. And it's funny now, every school has some kind of art program now, but back then didn't exist. So after like I of basketball, I went into illustration and kind of started teaching myself how to use Photoshop, how to use Painter, if that still exists, and a few other programs. And eventually I just got back into what I loved, which was art. And then I remember going to a school called Cal State Dominguez, and the teacher there told me, he's like, "Yeah, you're too advanced for this course. You need to go to another school." So I started looking around for different schools, and one school I looked at was Long Beach. They had like this, really good like illustration program at the time, but it was like a 3 year waiting list, and I was just like, I don't have 3 years. I'm still waiting. Yeah, so then someone told me about another school, and then which is the Art Institute, and then ended up going there, and then from there, I got introduced to animation. Now, when I was younger, I loved animation. Two of the films that inspired me were Akira Kurosawa's. Not Akira Kurosawa's. I love Akira Kurosawa, great director. The movie Akira was one movie that I saw and I thought was amazing, and then Ralph Bakshi's um, Fritz the Cat and um, Lord of the Rings. I just remember watching that movie and I was like, oh, this is weird and it's scary, but I liked it. But I didn't know what it was. And so then fast forward to when I came to the States, I went to that school. I One of the teachers was a Disney animator named Bill Racinos. And I started, taking 2D animation classes and I just loved it. And then I kind of pursued it. Um, but as time would have it, 2D was kind of phasing out, and CG was becoming a thing. And at that time, I was just like a good student, so I was like, whatever class I took, I was gonna like do well at it. So accidentally, I kind of just got into CG animation, even though I loved 2D. I was just like, oh, I'm taking a CG class, so I have to make sure I keep my grades up. So I just continued, working on becoming a CG animator, and before I knew it, I was CG animator. Not that easy, obviously, but like I was, learning CG animation, enjoying it, watching movies and all the other fun stuff. But I quickly realized that I wasn't good enough when I
Oh
went
no.
to I went to a Pixar. And so in LA, they have this. It's like the Film Academy. They have these seminars, and I remember Pixar was coming. And they were talking about Incredible at the time, as I believe, and Brad Bird was there, and all the big superstar animators, and they were talking about demo reels, and they put on the screen what a demo reel should look like. And at the time, I was working on a short film, terrible short film. I put a whole bunch of work into it, and I was a few months from graduating, and I went to this seminar and this talk, and he put up on the screen, "This is what a demo reel should look like." And I was like, "My demo reel doesn't look like that," and I'm like, "I'm screwed." So this is a bad idea. In a month, I tried to make a demo reel that mimicked what they showed on that screen. In a month, so no sleep, tried to put together this reel, and I made it even worse. But so I went through that experience because I quickly understood like where I was as an artist and animator in this industry, and I was like, "There's no way I'm going to get a job, and I've got a month left to graduate. What am I going to do?" So uh, after graduation, obviously, I didn't get any real callbacks or anything like that. Like we had like a whole demo reel show, and people come and look at your work, and I think back then people were more polite. They were like, "Oh yes, a nice, cute reel," but they were just being nice. They were never going to call me back. That kind of thing. I was very like I understood that. So once I knew I was in trouble, again, I'm out of school, so now I'm just trying to pick up freelance gigs here and there. I'm still trying to learn how to animate. I'm still looking for work, but like for that 8 months, I didn't get a job in the industry. I was just at home working on stuff, talking to friends, and then this whole online school started to become a thing. And back then, all the traditional teachers were like, "You can't learn animation on school. That's silly. It would never work." Like there was a real pushback against animation schools online. And then fast forward, I took Animation Mentor online. It was one of the best decisions I ever made because from there, after I did, I think it was like a 14-month intense animation course, I got my first real feature animation gig, which was at Rhythm and Hughes. So I
Wow.
landed a job at Rhythm and Hughes, and then kind of from there, things started to pick up. I did the whole nomad style, bouncing around from Rhythm and Hughes to Dallas to Toronto, back to LA. Sony ImageWorks. Yeah, I did the whole thing for like 2 to 3 years, bouncing around doing commercials and movies. And then also on the side, I'm still drawing. Because I still like 2D, so I still like had these ideas of making my own TV shows and comics. So I'm doing animation. I'm drawing my illustrations, drawing my characters. Still, trying to be part of the art and animation community together, and just learning as we go along. Um, and then I remember video games was something I was never didn't even think about was the end goal was always gotta work for feature film. That's like
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
big show, like the big show is to work for, Disney, Blue Star, Pixar, Sony, any of those things. That was like always the goal. And like some of the reason games had like a bad rap. Um, I can't understand why, but it was like just the quality at the time didn't match up. It's like, because you spend weeks on a shot in feature animation versus, on in a game. So continue on. I came to a crossroads where I had to make a decision if I was going to go to work in Toronto again or Canada or stay in LA. And at the time, I had, just had my second child. Well, I had my second child. My wife at the time had the second child. So I had to make a decision if I was going to bring my family over there or, stay here. And then a friend calls me and he's like, "Hey, you want to come work in games? And I was like, well, yeah, I'm not really doing anything right now. Like, sure. Like, 'cause at the time I was still in limbo, figuring out what I was gonna do next. And then I ended up working at Insomniac Games on the game Sunset Overdrive, and I had a great experience. It was like, oh, games is fun. Like, it was a fun experience. Animation quality was high. So I said, oh, if I ever worked in games again, I would definitely work in Insomniac Games again. So I was there for a year, and then I left there and ended up going back into feature. I think I went to Toronto, working at Toonbox on the Nut Job, I think it was, and then real effects on Rock Dog, I believe.
Hmm.
It all blurs. And then I get years go by, and then I get a call from the director from Insomniac, and he was like, "Hey, we'd love to have you back. Are you free?" And I was like, "Sure." And then I came back to Insomniac Games, and I've been there 6 years. And so in that time, as an animator, for 6 years, I also had, like I said, my personal projects, which my passion is, doing illustration and making my own characters. So here and then in LA, there's like different art shows. So I was doing a lot of art shows. One in particular called The Hive, which is in downtown LA, where they have themed art shows. So one day it could be zombie clowns. Another day it could be
Hey.
some kind of erotica theme.
Yeah.
Some time it could be like some horror film. So it's just different themes, and every month you would just come up with the illustration and then put it on display. And I remember my first time I ever did a show. It was amazing. I sold like 6 pieces, and I was like, "Oh, this is amazing!" Like, I didn't think anyone was gonna buy any of my stuff. So it's funny like that to know that somebody has some of my art somewhere. I have no idea who brought it. Like that's the weird thing. Like you have no idea who buys your art, but you come back and you see a red dot on your artwork, and it's like you're never gonna see this again. It's going home with somebody. So that was an interesting feeling to experience that. I was like, that was fun. So I kind of like continued doing that for a while. And then from there, I would start to get involved in different book projects, like collaborations with different friends. So I got involved in doing a few of those, which is even to recent the Art of Change one, which I'm a part of right now, which I'm not sure if you know too much about, but we just got funded, which is
Yes, of
pretty
course.
amazing.
That's how I know you.
And I'm not gonna lie, I didn't think it was gonna happen. Like because I don't know much about how Kickstarter and how these things work, and I remember looking at the number like 4 days from the deadline, and it was didn't look like anybody that he was gonna make it. And then before you know it just made it. But it was just amazing to be working with artists that you either looked up to or you know of, and you're like, oh, I'm doing a art piece with these famous artists kind of thing. So that was really amazing. But at the same token, it's like I keep extremely busy. Like to your point we were talking earlier about how do I manage my time?
Right.
One is I don't sleep, which is not good advice.
No, no, no. It's definitely not. I've seen,
It's
yeah.
not. It's like every year I tell myself I'm gonna go to bed at least 10 o'clock twice a week, like to get better sleeping habits. But then I just get excited about something, and I just like if I get an idea, I just get up and I just start drawing or writing it down or figuring out how I'm gonna do it or researching. But this one in particular, when I got approached about being part of Art of Change, it was different because like this is something kind of big. Like everything's big when you're talking about art and and creating. But something about this, I was like, man, this is like with everything going on, this is something special.
Yeah.
And knowing them there, I've known them for a while. They reached out to me, and I was like, yeah, I'm definitely want to be a part of this.
Hmm.
And then when I said yes, I was like, oh crap. When I saw like the list of all the people, I was like, oh boy, like these are like real big artists, and I'm like, so then that like put more pressure, which I work good underneath pressure, but it was like a lot of pressure, like to like
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I gotta make sure my work stands up to everybody else's.
Yeah, for sure. One thing that really catches my attention, I really want to explore that more, is all the side gigs. I know you do pretty amazing stuff at work, but
Mhm.
I guess we can speak about that later. But about your side gigs, I don't
Uh,
think I know that many artists that have a bunch of like such a variety of things like yourself. So from all the gigs and like side projects that you do,
mhm.
is it mostly to learn, to gain exposure, or or they're profitable as well? So how does it work?
Most of it, honestly, is I'm always thinking of exposure and opportunities. And
Okay.
that's always what, like, I try not to say no to a lot of things, even though I should start saying no a little bit more because obviously there's only a certain amount of times in a day. But I think I picked that up early on from either my parents and the mentor. So my parents always pushed me to be like, go for do what you want to do. Try everything. That's the one thing. And then for my mentor, they always say that you never know what project's gonna lead you where. Like you never know. Like you may think this one project might be great and it could be terrible. You may think one project might be terrible and it may lead to something else. So a lot of times when I take stuff or hear like listen to pitches, whatever it may be, it's always about like the opportunity of working with a certain individual or doing something I've never done before. Like again with with this art of change thing, it was like I've never worked with such talented artists, where will I stand in this? And it kind of reminds me like even working in animation. When you're working in animation, you're working on sequence of shots, and you always have an animator before you and animator after you, and you want to make sure that your work is as good as the person before you and as good as the person after you. So it's the same thing with when I take these projects. I'm like, okay, I'm taking a project which is big or a side gig, and it's a great opportunity. Don't ruin it. So it's kind of like I'm a kind of a what's the word, like a daredevil, where I like to put myself in, I guess, awkward situations or difficult situations, and
Right.
then see how I see how I do. Like one of my friends called me an extremist because I do that with everything. Like because I'm also like a climber. I do roller skate. I used to do parkour, so I do a lot of like things that for thrills, I guess. So taking some of these gigs is kind of in that same context where okay, there's an opportunity. I work with some I've never done before, or with people I've never worked with before. What can I produce? Like, what art can I? What
Yeah.
would it bring out of me, creative wise? And even with the art of change, when I did my first rough, and we all showed our roughs. And the minute I saw everybody else's, I'm like, there's no way I'm doing that. Like, I'm
Wow.
changing this right away. Like,
Yeah, of
as soon
course.
as I was like, oh, absolutely not. We're going back to the drawing board. And which is good, like, because it kind of keeps you in check. And it pushes you. There's nothing like being in a creative space with other artists. Like, there's something about the energy or what it brings out of you. And that's something I've learned about myself very early on. Like, I've been able to produce work that I don't think I wouldn't ever have done if I was just sitting by myself per se, like working with other people kind of has brought out like different ideas or things I may not have thought about. So that's when I'm taking these gigs, to answer your question, it's definitely for exposure and I learn things. Like I learn things from the different artists around and their ideas and how they see things. And then what I'm doing, I'm trying to show them how I see things. Because a lot of times, me being from the UK too, I have a different outlook on things versus, a lot of the other artists who are usually from America or
Yeah.
other parts of the world. So, I mean, that's one thing I would definitely tell anybody is like, try and tell the story how you see it from your perspective, because you have a very different perspective than anybody else. You have a different life path or different experiences. So,
For
I
sure.
hope that
No, I
answers that
agree.
question.
Yeah, yeah, no, of course. I mean, there's like I do believe in all the synergies. I think it definitely pushes you further, like just in sometimes in a very weird and unexpected way
Yes,
that you just can't
yes.
even think of. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So, can you give me like I don't know, I'm now curious, a couple of more examples of your just like side projects that you worked on. We've spoken about the book, the
Mhm.
Kickstarter project of the book. We've spoken about art shows that I also think a bit crazy. Um, so,
Yes,
so what
uh,
else is there? Open the Pandora
uh,
box for me.
Another one is, if you look behind me, you see that T-shirt
Yeah, I
thing.
see the T-shirt, of course.
Oh, this is another endeavor. I've always been interested in T-shirt designs, but I've never liked the idea of getting involved in doing T-shirts because it just seems like a lot of work, a lot of losing money, and it was something I didn't want to get involved with. This seemed time consuming, and then when this pandemic happened, what actually happened was I got commissioned to do a T-shirt. So I was like, oh, this is cool. I can do the T-shirt, give it away, and I haven't got to worry about the printing and the process. They just do it. So I did my first one. It was fun. It was fine. They loved it. It went on. I got commissioned to do a second one. So I'm doing the T-shirt, and I come up with this idea, and I posted it on Instagram, and everybody was going crazy, like, "Oh, this is a great design. I want to buy the T-shirt." And I was like, "Hold on. If I give this T-shirt to this person, they're gonna make all this money off my design." And I was like, huh, probably not. So I redesigned. I did a different design for the client, and then kept that design because people loved it so much. And then I elaborated on it, like, which is where I added like the Afro comb. So I ended up doing a whole series of these different illustrations like this of women and men with afros in an Afro comb. And then my parents was like, you know what? You finally start a family business. Like, you're an artist, make t-shirts. And I was like, okay, mom and dad, let's do it. So then now I'm starting trying to start my own t-shirt company and brand. So this is another gig, another thing endeavor I'm jumping in.
Amazing.
And I've a lot of so that's like the sample that came out really nice. So now I'm in the process of like doing little notes and fixes and getting it all together. And then I gotta send them off, get all the t-shirts, get them printed. It's been a long process because of COVID. It's kind of stopped a lot of
Yeah,
production
yeah.
and stuff. But again, I was able to prove to myself that I can do it,
Of
and people
course.
do like it. So yeah, that's another side gig, and the ultimate side gig, which could be career changing, is I'm creating my own TV show. So that's another endeavor.
Man, really?
So,
Okay.
so I've just finished writing my second script. I'm in the process of doing notes and getting together like a pitch Bible and a pitch deck. Which this is something different for me, where I'm still like doing the rough illustrations for what my characters look like. But what I'm doing instead is like there are people way better than me at character design, so I'm gonna use them to design my characters and do my vision. And that's kind of what I've been doing. I've been working with like other talented artists, to design, kind of design my character, which has been fun. Like seeing someone uh, create your world in their art style is freaking amazing, and like I'm very excited for like what I've been doing so far. So yeah, that's one of my other side
So, but
gigs.
for
So
this one, I guess, I mean, this sounds absolutely insane. Like, sounds like like a massive project. And yeah, and I'm sure it also requires a bunch of collaborations and synergies and
Mhm.
things like that.
Well, it's funny with writing, it's it's you and your imagination. So I'm just
Right.
sitting down, writing how I see a world, putting it on paper, having actors read it, listen to it, hearing the voices, do these characters sound real, and then visualizing how the animation will look and the world. So yeah, it's it's
Is it
interesting to.
is it a show for kids or for like
I would
adults?
say I want to say kids to teens kind of thing. So
Okay.
think Avatar, Last Airbender, Naruto, Voltron, that kind of genre of fantasy and action. So yeah,
So it's like heavily stylized.
yes, heavily stylized, and one of the things about my show is because again, when I first got interested in art many moons ago, uh, one of the things I realized even at a young age was like I didn't ever see black cartoon characters or heroes, and there weren't any. And then even now, like this is when I was like 10 years old, and even now I'm 42, I barely still see any. Like it's
Yeah, you
very
said it. I barely remember. I just remember a couple of, like typical, I guess, Disney cartoons that everyone will think of that,
yes,
like but just like as a showcase that,
yeah,
okay, we have that in our like,
yeah. And even now when I'm doing like my pitch vibe or my getting ready to pitch, that's one of the things I did. I sat back and like tried to research. Okay, what superhero cartoon series exist like today or in the last 10 years? And barely found any. There's like Static Shock is one, but that's like almost 12 years ago. Um, what as far as like superhero, other than like Black Panther cartoon TV series, I couldn't find any. And so that's kind of what I'm trying to fill that void is like I want to create a show where it's based in Africa, it's based on African folklore and having it be normal to see black characters as superheroes and let it just be normal and it's like let it be a great story that happens to have black characters in and that's kind of like one of my life goals now is to like create something that my kids can watch and then everybody can watch and I can go to Comic Con when that ever happens again and see people dressed up in my characters and that kind of stuff. So that's kind of like an ultimate life goal now these days.
Wow, amazing. So this is a TV show with the multiple like episodes and stuff like that and
Yes,
just like
yeah, it's gonna be
ongoing
season.
story.
Yes, yes.
Amazing, amazing.
Yeah.
Like so basically you're also like you're trying yourself as a writer, I guess, more than an animator
Which
in this case.
yes, and that this happened only a year ago. Things have moved very fast. I was I was working on one of the animation projects, and I saw how amazing the project did, and I was sitting back, and I was like, yeah, this project did well, but I'm still just a little cog in the machine, and it's one of the things I was like, if I lost my job today, I've still got to go apply for a job, do a demo reel, all this other stuff, while this entity still continues to live on past me. And I was like, I want to create something that can live beyond me and I can be proud of and say that like this is my creation that I'm giving to the world. So that's where that came from. So then one of my friends was like, "You should take a writing class," and I was like, "Okay, I'll try that." And I tried it and I loved it. And I was like, actually, people liked my ideas, and I was like, okay, maybe I have something. And then I continued on, and luckily I started to meet the right people who were helping me and pushing me in the right direction, and so that brings me
Wow.
to today. So yeah,
So if that goes well, do you think you will be animating this too, or there will be like more
um,
people?
I think if it goes through, I want to take the more of a director writer
Yeah.
showrunner type aspect or position and get people who are like way better than me because animation and art industry is become full of so many talent. It's ridiculous how many people are out there that is amazing, and I'm just seeing all these younger talents come out, and I definitely and they have they're more in touch with what's going on with like today's world as far as like styles and what's hip and what's not. So it's interesting just to see their language, their creative language versus what I learned or where I came from, and then just seeing that and then bringing those kind of artists, to work on my show is kind of where I'm
Right.
at the
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah. I agree with you. It's like, I think it's always kind of across generations that has been
Mhm.
like this
Yeah,
when the next ones are just overgrowing the
yeah,
parents. Just totally
yeah, definitely.
fair.
Yeah, exactly. It's
maybe,
like,
maybe just this time it's a bit faster.
yeah, it's very fast. I'm like, I think I'm just like, I'm getting out before I get kicked out. I think that's what I'm doing.
A little bit. Yeah. 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 So, do you feel also, the a little bit of competition on your like kind of a day job? Do you notice that they're younger or just like coming in the industry all as
Oh yeah,
well?
yeah.
Okay.
Like I mean, even when people submit reels and you look at it and you see them and you're like, wow, this guy is amazing. And but I never look at it as like competition per se. I just look at it as if this individual has a different language than I do, and they're
Right.
coming in, expressing their creative language, and I look at that and I learn from that. I'm like, because there's nothing wrong from learning from younger
No, no,
talent
of course.
or older talents. So I think you can get lost if you take everything as a competition. I mean, some people do that, and I can see how it's healthy. I I'm just trying to learn from everybody. Like I'm not delusional of where I am as an animator or an artist. Like I
Right.
know there's people way better than me. I know there's people not as good as me. I know there's people that are just as good as me. I can learn from all of them to help me continue on my path where I'm trying to go. Like,
Right.
and for me, that's what's important to me is like, am I still learning? Because if you're not learning anymore, then I'm not sure. To me, I'm not sure what the point is. I guess for
Right.
me,
And what's
yeah.
your favorite way to learn?
Me, so one thing I used to always do is I don't do it as much, but I just watch animated, like go to Vimeo and then just watch animated shorts or animated reels or shots or whatever is like out there. So I used to enjoy watching a lot of like animated short films. So I would literally just go to Vimeo and just type in short films or go to one of these like animation blogs and then like just see what's been posted or nowadays it's Twitter and just look at old animation shots or new animation reels and see what's kind of like out there. So that was one thing that would help me learn. I would just see like, oh, that's an interesting short. Oh, that was an interesting idea, interesting emotion, or interesting technique that they did. And then after that, it's like just looking at illustrations or artwork. Like Instagram is like full of so many artists, and then there's like now it's called ArtStation, which is where
Yeah.
most all artists post their work. Uh, Sometimes I go there looking at stuff, or not now, but going to like CTN or some of these art shows like the Lightbox, I think it's
Yeah.
called. Was it like
Yeah.
one of those?
Livebox Expo.
Yeah, Expo. Like that's kind of where I found one of the artists for my show. Like I was looking around, I saw this artist. I'm like, oh, this artist would kind of fit, the style of my show type thing. So it's like just doing that and just being around just the energy of different artists. I'm always learning that way too, just looking, just seeking out
Wow.
new art ideas.
And what's the, I always like asking that because, again, like I'm sure there is more to that Pandora box. What's the most exciting project for you that you've worked at?
I think now it's currently the show I'm writing on, like that I'm creating my own show. Like that's because I never imagined when I first started writing that I would actually create a full world with characters that people are beginning to love, and they're actually becoming alive. So right now, that's kind of been I think my most exciting right now is that I'm actually creating something that's mine from the ground up, and it's actually breathing. So yeah, I think that one. I mean, second to that would have been uh Ratchet and Clank, which is the game coming out next year. I got to animate on that, and then prior to that, what was the fun thing that I was like, oh, the Art of Change book actually, like being part of that, honestly, and then waking up, was it like Wednesday and getting an email saying it was funded. I was like,
Wow.
and I was just taken away. I was like, wow, this is really happening. So yeah.
How amazing. I really love the fact that, almost all of your most exciting projects are your side projects.
But it's yours. It's like
Life is ironic.
yes. It's like it's so funny. Like you go through these phases. Like you're like a student, then you're like you want to work at this big studio, and then you go through that, and then you're like you do it for a certain amount of years, and then you pick up this knife. You're like, wait, I want to make my own stuff, and then you start creating your own stuff. You're like, wow, I can do this, and like it's just a continuing journey, and everybody takes a different path or a different road, and yeah, it's
Yeah,
I mean, I never thought the kid who drew a cow in a grid is now writing a TV show per se.
exactly.
So
Right. I love that. It's just, I guess it's like you said, it's a continuous rediscovery of yourself and just trying different roles. And yeah, like also, I guess it's not the initial idea of our ideal career that we put in our heads.
yeah, it's
That is like,
it's
that is the
funny.
thing that's going to make me happy. Nope.
Yeah, yeah, it's like that's one thing, and you can't really you can tell someone that, but it's something you won't know until you go through it. Like no matter how many times you tell a younger artist, you know, your dream job might not be your dream job. They don't know that yet because they haven't been through their journey. And like once you've been through your journey, you kind of start to understand what works for you, what doesn't work for you, and your experience kind of shape you.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. So, would you say that you still like enjoy your, day to day as an animator the same way you did when you started?
I would say,
Or by
yes, I do.
now it's more of
Well,
a just a job?
it has its ups and downs. So there's some
Okay.
days where it's like this is amazing, and like it's a new challenge, and you tackle it like it was like the first day you started animating. And there's other days where it's like, oh, it is a job. You have to remember you still got to get your deadlines done. You still got to like sacrifice, your quality because you've got to make a quota per se, and that just comes with the territory, like depending on what project you're on and deadlines and budgets and stuff. So it's like it's a roller coaster. Like it
Right.
really is. Like there's some days where it's gonna be like this is great. This is like the good old day, and the other days where it's like, oh, this is a grind, and I have to figure out how to problem solve this issue and get through it, and then move on to the next day type deal.
Yeah,
And it's
for
again,
sure.
it's the life of an artist.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And it's like no matter what type of artist you are, like we all still have to, I guess, like pay the bills, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So that
Yeah,
is about it as well. So then,
yeah,
yeah, whatever the manager says, the art director.
yeah. Like I always say, unfortunately, passion is not a currency. It doesn't pay the bills.
That's a great, great quote. Yes.
Like it's just the truth. Like we're
Yeah.
all passionate about what we do. We love it, but just yeah,
Yeah.
that currency doesn't
So
exist.
yeah, I'm sure that a bunch of people that are listening to the show right now are scratching their heads, trying to figure out where do you get ideas or people to find these side projects that can keep you motivated and that can just, like spur creativity and just, reshuffle your routine a little bit. So, do you have any tip on that?
Interesting you asked that because especially like last year was a tough year for probably most creatives because the way I found my ideas. So I work. My studio is like 16 miles away, and so what I would do, I would ride my bicycle to work. Like that was kind of like how I got to work. Ride my bike back and forth, and in doing so, it would allow me to like go through the city, see things, see murals, see artwork, see commercials, see people interacting. That's kind of where I would get my ideas. Like seeing like a graffiti on a wall. Sometimes I would see like a character within that. So I would like get ideas just being interactive around people, whether it's around my co-workers or again just traveling on the train. Sometimes hearing people speak, like that's kind of where sometimes I would just get my ideas. So then when all that came to a stop and I was just stuck in this room for months, it was very hard to come up with ideas. I remember the first couple of months I struggled, but then after what I started doing with then more reading, I started like either reading more scripts, looking at a lot of my art books, like the art of Avatar, the art of Harry and Chance to Meet, but all these art books that I've collected like multiple to, and we put in the bookshelf and leave there. I actually started taking them out and looking through them, and like because a lot of us have all these art books and we get them and they kind of just sit there as like decoration. But like actually start
Yeah.
going through, there's a lot of stuff in there that really helps. So it was a combination of like looking through books, um, watching shows. Like I watch like there's so many shows out there, it's unbelievable. But I was just start looking at shows that like would inspire me or give me some ideas of this fun stuff. And then even just being on Zoom and bouncing ideas off people, like seeing what other people are doing, helping other people out on their projects. Like one of the things I learned as an animator was like helping out other people actually helps you become a better animator. I think the same thing can be said about anything. If you help people, giving feedback on people's art or asking them why they did this, it also helps you learn and see also into their brain and how they're thinking, and they might say something that might spark an idea in your head. So I think just you know speaking with people, helping people, and just looking at other people's art, I think that really helps me get my ideas. And then also having kids telling me what great anime is and what shows they think's amazing is also very interesting too. It's like this is what you guys watch. This
Exactly. Yes.
But this is horrible. But like they're like, no, you don't
Exactly.
know. Like you're not cool. You're old. You don't know what's cool. And I'm like, really? So that's also another thing. Learning from my kids what they think is great and amazing.
Yeah. And so coming back to connections, like mentioned like running ideas through people and helping people. So would you just how would you get in touch with anyone, or just like I assume of course you have already a large circle of friends in the industry.
Yeah, so one of the things when you are going to school, like I think one of the most important things that may not be stressed is like the people that you meet or your classmates. Like those are people that you're probably going to see down the road in the future. Like you're going to see them. So always try and surround yourself with, you know, different kinds of students and people that you meet and keep in contact with them and really start to like bounce ideas. Like don't be scared to show them, you know, your work. Don't be scared to ask them to look at their work and give feedback and ideas and thoughts. So that's usually how I would do it. Or there's even times where like um I might not know like, you know, animator, but I know he's a great animator. I would sometimes just reach out to them. I'd just say, hey, Mr. Like, I know like once I wrote an email to like Lamar Bradley. He's a, you know, Disney animator, DreamWorks animator, amazing animator. There's times I just reach out to him once in a while to say, hey, you know, ask him a question. What do you think about doing this? Or how would you go about doing this? And you know, most times, you know, most artist animators will, you know, help you or answer you, or they'll send you down a path that can get you that help. And that's something like, you know, just reaching out politely, because at the end of the day, they are also busy, but like sometimes just, you know, reaching out and just saying, hey, and just telling them your situation or your story and what you like to learn. They're usually, you know, give you some kind of feedback or finding some kind of forum or like
Yeah.
art forum or thing. But
No,
like
no,
definitely just
amazing.
be
Yeah,
like,
yeah, no, for
yeah,
sure. I think in
yeah,
general, artists are not like people are nice to each other. It's just
yeah,
I
yeah,
think it sometimes may feel awkward that I'm like putting myself out there or like
yeah,
um messaging someone, but why do I message them? And
yeah.
maybe they're
It's
busy.
yeah. I mean, and sometimes you just like what I always say, what's the worst that can happen? They don't reply, and then that's it. You just move on. Like that's
Exactly.
the worst that could happen. But if you don't even try, then you like you haven't even given yourself the opportunity to fail. And failure is something that will happen, and you just got to be able to like uh, bounce back from it and learn
Yeah,
from it. Yeah. Like
100%.
if you haven't failed yet, you also kind of stunting your growth.
Yeah.
Is the best way I can put it. Yeah.
That's for sure. That's for sure. Or maybe you're just preparing yourself for like a bigger failure, which is like
Yeah.
a little bit worse. You're like
Exactly. Like
finally failed.
I take my fails in small doses, not the huge ones. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's yeah, sounds a little bit more manageable. Wow,
Yeah.
cool. Leon, it's been a huge conversation on side gigs. I'm so grateful. Thank you so much for sharing everything.
Thank you.
But before I let you go, we've got a little
Oh, okay.
tradition. We've got a little tradition on the podcast.
Okay.
There is a little questionnaire of like 10 questions, and you're
Okay.
allowed a few words to each question.
Okay.
Okay, ready?
I'm ready. Let's do this.
Let's do this.
Uh,
So, what's your number one tip for combating distractions when working from home?
my number one tip is don't do research. Research is what someone told me is a creator's fascination. Don't do research. Just put something on paper. Anything.
Awesome.
Put a line on paper. Just put something on paper.
Awesome. What's your favorite tradition or holiday?
My favorite tradition or holiday is probably my favorite tradition is watching a TV, watching Harry Potter with my kids. So we do a marathon every Christmas. We watch, all the Harry Potters over Christmas. So that's probably my favorite thing that I do.
We did the same. This is so crazy. Mine still cannot sleep.
Yeah, we
Probably
we're
one
big.
year too early.
I tried that with Gremlins, and they were not ready for Gremlins, so I'm waiting for that one.
I love that. What's your favorite way to get in some exercise?
Actually, I exercise every single day. I'm a big calisthenics. I'm an ex-athlete, so
Yeah, okay.
I wake up every morning and just work out. So anything, whether it's doing push-up, I have a pull-up bar in my home, and I do the other body weights. So
Oh
yeah,
my God. Okay.
that's an
Yeah,
easy
I'm
one.
asking an ex-athlete. Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. Do you still play, by the way? Do you still play basketball?
I don't play basketball. I filled that void with climbing and newly roller skating. I somehow now I'm a roller skater now. Funnily
Okay.
enough, I enjoy. So yeah.
And a practicing parkour person.
Yes, I haven't done that in a while, but that well in the last for the COVID, and then one of the best gyms we had just closed, just a couple months ago, which is kind of sad. But yeah, one day I want to get back out there and start jumping stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm sure you will. What's your most used emoji?
Ah, I actually don't. I guess the laughing with the tears.
Yeah.
I'm emoji illiterate, so that's the
Okay.
only one I might go to.
Okay. What's your source of inspiration?
I think my source of inspiration is I think just the art community. I think just seeing that things are being created, like that's my inspiration. That people are still creating and still trying to do original ideas. So I mean that might sound like a bit like very sappy answer, but that's true.
No.
My inspiration is just seeing like new things being created and people exploring.
Awesome. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
My best piece of advice is use them as much as they use you. And that was from Clive Allen, my basketball mentor who got me into basketball. He said when you're gonna go to the States and go to college, use them as much as they use you.
All right. Wow. That's very profound. um, how do you celebrate little victories?
That's a very interesting one. Like, do I even celebrate little victories? How do I celebrate them? I think actually what I do, I show people. So if I've like, if if I've done a rough or I've animated something, or I feel like, oh, this is good, I'll show someone just to make sure it is good. And then if they do get a good reaction, like that's kind of like how I celebrate it, or maybe I get some feedback. But yeah, I think by showing people because you can be get caught up in your own world. So yeah, showing people what I've done.
Awesome. If you could see one movie again for the first time, which one would you watch?
Mhm. Interesting. Probably Probably it's a hard one. I'm gonna go with Akira Kurosawa's Seven Samurai. It took me forever to watch that movie, and when I watched it, I was blown away, and I was upset that I hadn't seen it earlier.
Wow. Okay. That's a good one. Huh? That's a good one.
Yeah,
If you could choose any two famous people to have dinner with, who would you invite?
this is a tough one. Famous people.
Or they can be dead as well. Doesn't matter.
Um, famous person probably. Um, I want to say Nelson Mandela. Wait, is he dead? Or is he alive?
Yeah, yeah, that's yeah. He can be invited, or yeah, but doesn't matter
Yeah.
if he's dead. Yeah.
Yeah. So Nelson Mandela be one, and then I think a second one would be. Oh, Akira Kurosawa.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I would love to pick his brain like way ahead of his time. So yeah, those two. I
Okay, awesome. And finally, what's your backup career?
think I'm working on it right now is being a writer. Although I always said if I wasn't an artist, I'd probably be a Shaolin monk because I love martial arts. So maybe that. Maybe become a monk.
Okay. Amazing. Amazing. Well, that's it. That's been 10. Leon, thanks so much again for, just coming and sharing everything. I think it's been really, really, just detailed and very interesting conversation. I really enjoyed meeting you as well.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate you inviting me. I enjoyed the talk and looking forward to seeing a lot more of your posts and interviews.
Sure. Thank you so much. Bye.
Take care. Bye.
If you're watching us on YouTube, that would be amazing if you could share what are your ultimate side hustles right here in the comments. And if you're listening to this in the audio format, you can head over to podcast in iTunes and give us a review, and also tell us what you learned, because guys, we're doing this podcast for you. I'm going to be very honest. When you leave us reviews, we clap all together as a team. So thank you so much for listening. And again, a quick reminder, likeness weeks at Art Heroes, we're showing how to make a likeness in 3D in ZBrush. So www.artheroes.co and grab your free slot at the workshops this and next week. Thanks again, and I'll be back with you with a new interview and a new artist in a week. Right? Ciao.
Thanks for listening to Art Heroes Podcast. Check out www.artheroes.co for show notes, more interviews, and free tools made for you by our team of mentors. Tune in next week for more inspiration, and keep up the great work, hero.